Hello and welcome to the Punish for Protecting live broadcast with your host, Francesca Amato, national expert in the Americans with Disabilities Act, domestic violence and child abuse advocate, best-selling author, and founder of Punish for Protecting Incorporated. We welcome all of our viewers listening on Facebook via Punish for Protecting News and the CPS News Network. If you're watching on YouTube at Punish No More and Free to Protect, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Now, without further ado, here is your host, Francesca Amato.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining our live tonight. I just need a show of hands. If people could let me know if you can hear me, please. I'm going to be looking at the comments first and see if they've tried to mess with my sound. So if someone can just tell me if you can hear me by giving me a thumbs up or just putting it in comments that you can or cannot hear me. All right, awesome. And here we go. Today, I have a horrible story that I have to share. And those of you that have watched, the viewers that have watched previously, when you've seen, I actually had Minister Lewis Arthur on, and we told the Sarah Stanley and River story. So please, you can watch on my channel here on CPS News Network. You can see it on the Punish for Protecting News channel and on my YouTube channel, Punish No More and Free to Protect. You can watch the previous interview with Sarah Stanley. Unfortunately, I have some horrible news that Sarah Stanley has in fact been arrested in Alabama, and I am very, very righteously angry about this. And I'm going to be bringing out my guest, which is Lewis Arthur, Minister Lewis Arthur, who also, he was on last time when we did the interview, and he talked about things, and he's going to talk about some things tonight to update everybody, educate people who don't understand, that think that, you see the comments sometimes and they think that, oh, thank God a child was found. But, so many mothers and good dads many times run and hide from our horrific family court CPS system. And these are law-abiding citizens, if you want to call it that. They're law-abiding citizens. And yes, I will give a preface as to what has happened, and then I'm going to bring Lewis Arthur in. And again, you can watch, there will be a link in the description, or you can go on the YouTube channel and look up the Sarah Stanley story as to what happened. But tonight, yes, we're going to give a preface to what happened, and then what has happened now, and why this mother, this innocent mother, has been arrested and her child is placed with the abuser. Now, before I bring Lewis Arthur out, and we want to make sure our sound is working, we tested everything. Before I bring him out, I do want to say, everyone, that this week alone. Now, I have to tell you, I court watched for Sarah Stanley. So I know that there was no due process. I know that there was an arrogant opposing attorney, that I deal with this type all the time. I know that they don't care about this woman. This father doesn't care about this woman, this mother. He clearly stated for the whole public to know what a wonderful woman and mother she was and how great she was, until she finally called him out for his violent abuse, to include molestation of her. And but before I bring him out, I do want to say that there has been cases where I'm very, very, very intricately and deeply involved. And within these cases, I'm not going to say names because I don't have my guests on regarding these stories, but in the past 3 days, a little girl who her mom, did have some issues, and her lovely aunt and uncle were raising her. And so mom did the right thing because she knew she was young, and she knew there were some things there. So her child was always well fed, always well cared for, always safe, always very well cared for, just was in school, doing very well in school. The aunt and the uncle that were raising her, well afforded her and took very, very good care of her. And she had everything she needed. And most of all, she had love and protection. When this little girl disclosed to numerous people through the, psycho CPS and court system, something so vile that the father belongs in jail. As soon as that happened, the court restrained the aunt and uncle. Apparently, they were coaching her. That's what they do. That's always coaching. You're always coaching. You're coaching a 2-year rash on a child. You're coaching sexual manifestations that a child is having. We know that they're not coaching anyone. And when this happened, they restrained the aunt and uncle. They restrained them, gave the child to her bio mother, who had full access to her at any time, only in a safe setting and a loving setting, and she was being taken care of as well. And they literally put this young mom under duress, threatened her, kept out anybody that had any, reputable background. I talked to a very actually awesome attorney out there, and he was like, this is absolutely appalling. And this man literally understood and agreed with everything I say about what the family court is doing to families and how evil and sick it is and wrong, and CPS. And he agreed 100%. And you don't often get that with attorneys. And he said there's absolutely no reason why they would give this father sole custody. There's no reason they would give him custody, maybe visitation, maybe supervised. He was appalled that he would get anything. They were working on reunification. And what they did is they went into the court ex parte and literally gave the father sole custody, claiming that the mother could not handle the child, and said verbally that she does not want to take care of this child anymore, which was a full out lie. And the mom ended up in emotional, I hate to say mental institution, and I don't want to say it that way, but because she's distraught, caused her such distraught that this all happened like within the past few days. At the same time, there are 2 other exact same stories. And the funny thing about these fathers, and we're for fathers, but not abusive ones. The funny thing about these fathers, because only abusive fathers take sole custody from good mothers. Only abusive fathers, remember that, never forget that. Only abusive fathers take sole custody from loving and good mothers. Okay. Think, why would you take your children from a loving, a good mother? Okay. And I got to say, this Amber Heard thing, women are never believed anyway. Less than 6% of women, this is proven, lie about domestic abuse in the home. And 94% of women are treated like liars. So 100% of women are treated like liars. And now with this Amber Heard, Johnny Depp nonsense, and I've got a lot to say about both of them, which I'll get into that at another point. With this whole situation, this is going to make it really difficult for women because of liars. When liars do something, or it's really horrible what's happening to women and children. But without further ado, let me bring out my guest, Minister Lewis Arthur, and we're going to do a quick couple of second here test. I need all of you that are sending me messages and so on and so forth to let me know if you can hear Lewis. So Lewis, can you say hi so we can test your sound again? Because they like to message me. What do you guys? I hear him. Do you guys hear him? Let me just check. Can somebody give me can you hear Lewis?
Yeah, the thumbs up.
Yeah. Can you guys hear Lewis? I'm waiting for one of you to. Okay, wonderful. So our sound is good. I pounded the sound today. Minister Lewis, thank you again for being on the show. There's some people that don't know about Sarah Stanley's story. A lot of these people are back for what's just recently happening. Lewis has been a wonderful, absolutely amazing human being. And I know you've been attacked a lot. We get attacked when we tell the truth. The enemy doesn't like the truth. The devil doesn't like the truth. That's his worst enemy, right? So Lewis, can you give a little backstory on Sarah first so we can get into what has happened recently? And I'm going to put up a picture of River Stanley while you're talking.
We came into her custody dispute with her ex, her abuser, who abandoned her and his son, and literally made her sell her car. And she's a very detailed woman. She has all the paperwork, all the receipts, all these text messages. So she's not just creating a narrative in her mind. If you read what she says and what she has that goes with what she says, you understand this woman's telling the truth. She doesn't have any criminal history, no drug use, nothing like that. And our investigation into the father was There is just nothing but red flags dealing with his lifestyle, basically. But still, we came in at the 11th hour. So at the 11th hour, she was going through a custodial exchange. And what they don't seem to understand is I was there. And also another one of our volunteers that had came down from the border, they were actually there. So there were two people there. And they only brought one in to her court hearing, but I was there as a witness too. And what happened was Lee was told she was running late and she was coming with the child. We had a plan. She was worried he was going to take her child out of state, so we had a plan. Well, don't worry. I mean, we got time. We can keep an eye and we can track if we have to. I mean, everything, I said, but let's just see what's going on. So it wasn't like she was not willing to comply. It's the fact that the courts put her in this situation where they wouldn't address any of her reasonable fears. They wouldn't address any of her concerns. They wouldn't even allow her to advocate for herself. They wouldn't allow her advocates to come in the court. They wouldn't even listen to the witnesses who were saying, that's a grandfather that testified that loves his grandchildren. And he told the judge, I would not put a child in that man's hands. And when one of my volunteers has gone down and they help us, they know the children we get from the border. They see the children in our history that we pulled from the streets, from homeless camps, from washes, from hotels where horrible things happen. These kids go through horrible things. River was with a mother who loved him, completely safe. And the way they did this woman, railroaded this woman, this judge, this attorney, everything they did, they violated her due process. They violated all these constitutional rights they say that they're there to uphold, and the justice that they're there to fulfill. Now, I witnessed this. So I didn't witness anything to where she committed any single crime. She was terrified at that moment because it was within hours of her supposedly not showing up, which she did, and he was told she was going to be late, and his attorney is the one who said, get out of there. We'll just file the paperwork. The judge is on our side anyways. This is a case closed. And what happens? Exactly within a few hours, they take sole custody from a child who's been with his mother, who has no drugs, no alcohol, no criminal record, ran marathons, life coach, holistic lifestyle, Christian woman who people just, I mean, she has a lifestyle that's healthy for a kid. And she's a good mom. I did not have a good mom growing up, so I can tell people she's a good mom. The mother to my daughter, great mom. I mean, I know a good mom and a bad mom. And what we have here is a law-abiding mother who's sitting in a county jail in Alabama. I can't get any access until tomorrow, so I can give you that update. I know she tried to call one of her families out here in Idaho. And there have been 3 families out here, and I've been in contact with them already, and they're devastated seeing what happened. They saw her, they know River, they've known her. I mean, you should see the way these people are. God bless the lady who takes care of her storage. She charges next to nothing. And we cover that for her stuff because she had every right to be terrified. And if she was going to flee, it was our job to provide sanctuary for her. But when, on April 22nd, we ran in the roadblocks trying to get her to another spot, and she found someone else, and we still do not know who she found, why she was in Alabama. She was headed to a different direction. I know that. So we're still trying to figure out, and we have all these online trolls that are coming to my channel saying, oh, Timothy Holmesmith and Randy Erickson and Louis Arthur Feds, all this stuff. I just tell people, look, a little boy was just ripped from his mother. I'm witnessing this transpire, and understand we have Amy Harshbarger. She's going to trial for supposedly kidnapping her child, and she's in Arizona. Tracy Reardon in Montana. Tracy Reardon. And I'll tell people, this is how amazing these women are. We had a Cuban family that got separated, a mother and a daughter from the border, and our volunteers. And we were out asking people, hey, who can get to the migrant center? We have a daughter who doesn't have money. The mom has the money. They're being put on separate flights. The mom's concerned. Can we check on her? It was Amy Harshbarger who supposedly kidnapped her kid, and they're trying to put this woman in prison. And what people, she was the one who went out there, not even related to my border stuff. And guess Guess who got a hold of her? It was Sarah Stanley, who was watching our channel and said, oh, this mom, she's worried about her daughter. Let me help. These are the type of women that we're advocating for. And it breaks my heart to see these women go out and do the most amazing things, even when they're going through persecution themselves. And people who aren't even going through persecution want to sit there and regurgitate the same stuff. We know CPS is corrupt. It needs abolished. So let's stop talking about it. Let's start abolishing it. In order to do that, you have to provide what the government is providing that has enslaved everyone to its system. We need our own hospitals. We need our own schools. We need our own safety shelters, to where we don't have to rely on CPS and the government to come in and dictate what goes on between the family. That needs to go back to God. It's faith, family, freedom. It's not government, family, freedom, none of that. It is faith, our Father, family, and then freedom. So I'm asking people, there's things you can do now. We posted the number on the sheriff's site. It's good for them to get calls so they know that they're actually holding an innocent woman who just had her child abducted. And what they've done is criminal. And anyone that would go out and cheer this, understand, I'm telling you right now, you're on the wrong side of this. And no one should ever celebrate any victory where the government's involved with ripping a child from any parent, whether it's a mother or father. That's a failure of us we call ourselves Christians, but we're too lazy to get involved with people's problems, to try to minister to them, to try to get in and mediate. So what do? Well, we'll just let the courts decide. Well, this is what happens when you allow satanic court systems like the family courts that they've gotten set up. And that's an all for-profit court system. There's no justice there. There's no justice there. And every law enforcement that's obeying those orders are violating their oaths, and they're criminals themselves. So if you're back in the blue, while they are literally beating some of our mothers black and blue, you hear what the U.S. Marshals did to Tracy Reardon? I know that you still got to interview her, Francesca, but look what they did to her. Yet again, another good mother, no drugs, no alcohol, worked and insisted, Department of Homeland Security, licensed to carry. And look at what they did to that woman and the people that were involved.
One after the other. I've been talking to one after the other. Let me just say something. Hold on. Let me just say something, because I'm watching some of the comments, and just mute in between. Just don't forget to mute when I talk, and I have to mute when you talk, or it messes up their sound. Let me just say something, and I so much to say about what you're saying, and I want you to keep, talking about this. Anybody here that says that there's no proof of this father with any domestic violence, let me talk about something with you for a moment, okay? I'm going to talk to you who's saying such nonsense and ignorance, okay? I do this for almost 15 years. I took on both mothers and fathers with a full heart of no doubt of either side. This is the truth, okay? I am not a woman's liber at all, whatsoever. I believe in the godly order of homes. And I'm not talking about somebody dictating over the other person. I'm talking about that godly equal respect and love and an order and headship. And we are the weaker vessel. Sorry, fellas, heterosexual dads and fathers and men, you're not the weaker vessel. We are, okay? So I know you want to be the weaker vessel, but you're not. So any man that would take a child and do what you've just done to this little boy, who now you have just, and social science research proves this, you have harmed him for life. If you don't want to call that domestic violence, well, guess what, honey? I will, because it is that. Because you have just taken off years of his life. You've taken his mother away, and you've taken him from her. And the crazy court system that has no heart, no soul, and no head, and no brain, okay, helped egg you on to take this child from this mother. Everything Lewis is saying is 100% true, is 100% true. And when he was there physically, I was on the phone with Sarah. She was bringing the child. They took custody away, and she was there. She was in the court. She was distraught. She was anxious, depressed, worried, sick about her child. She didn't make this up. She was genuinely hurt and worried for her little boy. Father abandoned him. Come to my face and tell me different, you troll. Father abandoned him. Father left her completely carless with no money. That's called coercive control and money control, and that is a form of abuse, like it or not. Now this poor innocent mother, another innocent mother, a woman, a mother, the weaker vessel, you abuser, is in jail right now. Distraught. And you can ask Lewis about that because he is a real man. You want to know why he's a real man? To those of you that want to be the weaker vessel, because he's standing up and protecting women and you're not. Now, you've not just hurt this woman, but you've hurt this little boy. And this is one of millions of children. And that's why I'm righteously angry. Now,
Psychologically, there's not a single child psychologist out there who would say that it is in the best interest of a child to take the child from a loving mother, put him in the hands of someone he doesn't even know. And a majority of this not knowing is by his own decision. See, people don't want to talk about the facts. Sarah Stanley showed up to do the custody exchange. We were there as witnesses. They don't want to get all the witnesses in court because then they can't uphold their unlawful orders against this mother. And they derailed us. They locked the public out from the hearing because they didn't want people to watch in court as they stripped the rights away from a mother, and literally told her, I was listening in court, was with her as she's doing Zoom. We're all on these phones together, working, monitoring this situation. This attorney said Sarah will not get on her knees. She literally said that to the judge. She will not get on her knees. They have an agenda. This was all recorded. Everything they did is to me, it's pure demonic. You never take a child from a mother who's never done a single thing but take care of that child. She's done nothing but take care of that child. So why would you strip the child? You would send in mediators. And if the courts would have just got out of our way and allow God to get in, and Gary Lee Jennings would have got those attorneys. Listen, the day after he was supposed to bring River back at the last custody hearing, he had a flight to go to Mexico, and he was going back down there to party with his psychedelic drugs. It's not like we don't have all his stuff tracked. So people, this is a guy who's doing drugs, going to other countries, who's going to watch River when he wants to go party to his music festival and do it. He did that anyways when he was supposedly worried about his kid. Then he comes back and sets up a GoFundMe. Then he goes on to the media and says, oh, I want my child. This woman is doing all this horrible things to me. I'm this good guy. And it's like, no. At the end of the day, I've always told people it takes two parents to argue. And it's two people that were trying to argue. As I was talking with the sheriffs while Sarah was still in our ministries program, I contact them every week and I give them updates and let them know they're safe. And I want to know the status of their warrant. She has had a misdemeanor custodial warrant. I don't know when it suddenly turned felony, but I know at my last check before she went to another group, we don't know what happened after that. But suddenly she has a felony custodial warrant. So we have no idea what's going on. We won't know until we talk with her. She's the only one who's going to know everything that transpired since I last, and it was since April 22nd. And I know you talked to her, or you had a message from her on the 26th.
Yeah.
So
let me read this comment right here so I can touch on this comment from Virgo Kennedy. The father stated in an interview with Nate that Nate, who is extremely one-sided and didn't want to hear from anybody else. Now, I'm a journalist, and when I talk to people, I request both sides. I requested their side. They refused, okay, because I'm going to do, and plus, mind you, honey, I was deeply steeped into this case, and I witnessed the court not give her due process. Matter of fact, they threw her into an instant trial. How do you throw somebody into an instant trial without evidence, witnesses, or any support behind this woman? You don't do that. And I also invoked all of her Americans with Disability Act rights, in which the court was completely foolish and didn't understand how to do that. That's called noncompliance. A murderer had more rights than Sarah Stanley did. But let me finish. The father stated in an interview with Nate that he wanted both of them to share custody. And I'm going to call you out right now. Not you, because you're just asking a question, but I'm going to call that statement out. Did Sarah cause issues during scheduling visitation? Let me talk to you about abuse and abusers, and when children are going to be abused, and when mothers are in a panic over their children being abused. Okay, she didn't cause this issue, so stop re-victimizing the victim. Number two, if the father didn't want to take full custody from the mother, why did he? If the father wanted to share and be the right person and be an actual father and actually maybe get some anger management classes and actually prove himself, okay? If he actually didn't want to do this, then why did he? Because you know what? It's all on him right now. He is the one that pressed charges. He is the one that did all of this with his crazy, insane. If you watched her, you would literally can't hate her. Watch his mentally ill, evil attorney that I got to witness. Okay, she was horrible, absolutely horrible, horrible. Okay, arrogant. This is not how you treat families. When families come into these bogus courts, there's no jury trial of their peers. The judge is not even a referee. They're not equally. They're not having equal footing under the law. They're not having uh, anything proper. It's all one-sided for the abuser. I see this every single day. Want to join me? I'll let you join me. You join me because I'm in these courts every day all across the country. And then you tell me what you see. I know some of you have questions because you think this can't possibly happen. It's happening every second of the day to good, innocent people. And it can happen to you. And don't think it won't. Because it could happen to your cousin, your nephew, your niece. It could happen to your neighbor's kids. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, wow, these people were right. I'm not out here every single day losing money every single day, sacrificing my life for all these families for nothing. Okay, because this is certainly not glamorous and this is certainly not fun. So there's an answer to him wanting to share custody. Where was he?
Well, the thing and even with that, the whole thing is the family court system has no business in family matters. It has shown itself capable and willful in abusing both mothers and fathers and stripping children away. I have witnessed CPS take children from my homeless shelter, and literally a year later, they're back in the hands of the pedophile that the little girls told us who raped them, who abused them and molested them. CPS swore that they would never get those kids back. I've seen CPS traffic children straight to child traffickers, to child rapists, to criminals, to druggies, but they'll rip them away from families who have no criminal record, who are holistic, who are Christian, who don't want to have them vaccinated, who wants to make sure that their child is safe. And the easiest thing that anyone could have done was to start addressing Sarah Stanley's fears instead of saying, you don't have a right to have these fears. To me, that's insane. Absolutely, you have a right to have those fears. I used to be a victimizer. I never beat women or anything, but I was in prison. I used to beat the shit out of a lot of people. I was not a good guy. I was very violent. And I can tell you, those people, well, most of them didn't have it right because they hurt kids, but some of them, didn't deserve it. You're traumatized when you harm someone else or when you get harmed. She had reasonable fears, and if the courts were involved, we would have been able to address those fears. We would have been able to work with it like we do with any case because we are very successful at what we do. But what we had was something no one was prepared for. We had a judge, Cleve Colson, who literally violated his oath, if he even has one, because he refused to produce one. And he literally violated his oath. And within a minute, he decided that it was a good idea to take a child from the only care provider that child's had and place him with a total stranger who's only got like 5 pictures of them and they're the recent ones from the most
total stranger who chose
a
to be a
total
total
stranger, and that's not good for the child. And now he doesn't know where his mother is.
He chose to be a total stranger. He chose to abandon the child. He chose to leave
he left them. And I'm all for them coming back and building a bridge, but he did make that decision. And the proper way is to come back and build that bridge, earn the trust, address Sarah's grievances, her fears. I mean, here's the thing is, Sarah was working with me, and I can tell you when it came to the forgiveness part, she was not a woman who was unwilling to forgive, but she did have very, very rigid standards and things that she would expect. But when you look at everything that she has gone through, and it's really horrible. And then what she's going through right now, for people don't understand, because America sits to allow this government to not just traffic children across the border. That's what most of my people see, are all the kids being smuggled across the border. I mean, we've got 2 children in North Carolina right now. We got a little boy and a little girl, both jabbed 10 times in one day. Stabbed 10 times in one day. On March 28th, they started mass injecting all these children, 10 vaccinations in one day. Most of these kids already have vaccines from their country, but since they don't have their vaccination cards, we got and we got sick kids. We had a boy who has a broken arm right now. He didn't have a broken arm when my team got him out of the desert, but somewhere in immigration, his arm got broken, and we're trying to figure out how that happened right now. So all across the board in our ministry, we're dealing with abused children. We're dealing with abused mothers and fathers. You know, we don't pick a gender here. It's either who is in the right, who is in the wrong. In most cases, both sides are in the wrong, but one side's more in the right. So then we try to get the other side up to meet them, and that gets them both on a level ground. Sarah was willing to sit down, just not do these courts anymore. And you can't blame any mother who sat there and watched what this judge and this attorney, Lori Gaffney, she's on Twitter bragging about being a democratic socialist.
There you go.
So
horrible.
She is bragging about that. They don't believe in our Constitution rights, and she's out there helping take children away from people. And she has a history. She made some father so mad he tried to set her house on fire. So you have to absolutely be hurting a lot of people and their kids to have someone come after and try to burn your house down. She doesn't care because it's about the money, and she hates our country. She hates our Constitution, but she's practicing law and taking children away. That's who guys like Gary Lee Jennings goes and hires. People who just want the money, who are just going to do the job, who know how to manipulate the system. They don't care about what's in River's best interest. If they did, they would have got out of the way. They would allow God to get in. They would allow a mediation to take place, and then River would likely have a relationship with both mother and hopefully a repentant good father who becomes a good father. We want Gary to be a good father. We don't want him to always be a piece of crap. I was a piece of crap for 17 years. Nobody wants that for anyone. So we want redemption for everyone, even people who've done bad things. I mean, I used to really hurt people. So, Gary Lee Jennings has never pummeled someone's face into where they're nearly dead and you can't recognize them. I have, and I was very violent. And that's why they had me locked up all the time, So, I look at this whole case and it's a failure. It's our failure. I tell everybody, it's our failure. We allow these courts to do what we should be doing ourselves.
And regardless of any of the comments that still don't get it, they can't wrap their head around it, they don't understand it. Like I live this 24/7, 7 days a week for almost 15 years. I've watched judges all over this nation. I've watched them hand over children to sexual molesters and rapists and you name it. I see it every day. They do it as soon as there's a report disclosed, a child discloses it right out of their mouth. Mom, all of a sudden, or dad, mostly mothers, are suddenly coached and boom, child gets taken away. And you wonder why these mothers go into a panic to the point where some of them do something they would never normally do, like go hide because they don't know what else to do to save their kid. What would you do as a mother to save your kid? What would you do as a mother? I mean, just think about that. I have to go to a commercial break. We're going to be back. We have a lot more to this story. So please just bear with us. And we'll be right back after this intermission.
We'll be right back after a message from Punished for Protecting Incorporated. Each new generation of protective mothers is shocked when they first go to family court and find it doesn't favor single mothers and is willing to jeopardize children. Francesca's harrowing experience with the broken family court system, from which she finally received justice after 8 months of struggle, is proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Francesca has one of these unspeakably cruel cases and has responded by shining a large spotlight on widespread failures so other mothers won't be shocked. Punished for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court by Francesca Amato Banfield, advocate, mother, whistleblower, founder, and TV talk show host of Punished for Protecting. If you are struggling with injustices wrought by our courts, this book will help guide you through the process. Available on Amazon.com. Search Punished for Protecting and get your copy today. Help abolish family court by purchasing Punished for Protecting merchandise. Here are our top sellers. See the link in the YouTube video description to find out how to get your Punished for Protecting t-shirt. Get your high-quality Punish for Protecting t-shirt while supplies last, and let everyone know that you stand for justice. Are you being re-victimized by the family court system? Do you need help with your case? Go online and book a talk with Francesca. Go to punished4beingAparent.com/book-a-talk. Fill in your name, email address, and message to Francesca. Someone will get back to you within 24 hours. Francesca and her staff of volunteers continue to work tirelessly every single day for parents and children who are in need of their help. There have been multiple success stories, including Francesca's, which gives hope to others in similar situations. Punished for Protecting Incorporated has incurred out-of-pocket expenses with zero funding to help families get their children back or to save their children from being taken. We also have provided funds to help with retainers, food, lodging, and travel. We really need your help so we can continue to provide our many services. Any amount is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to donate or sponsor a family in need of help, go to Cash App, Free the Children. And now back to our broadcast.
Okay, so I'm going to bring my guests back out, but I'm going to go through some of these. Comments that were on the screen while. Let me unmute him. I'm going to just go over a couple comments, Louis, real quickly, and one of them that I'm actually kind of chuckling about because it's kind of funny. I mean, it's really not. It's kind of sad, especially since I just got done saying that the man abandoned her and left. So if he was worried about his child, why did he abandon her and leave? Like, I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways, honey. He abandoned her and left her without money with the child. Like, he literally left her without money, but he cared about the child. Make that make sense. Anyway, let's read some of these. This one says, is there a connection between Lee having $150K for attorneys and Sarah having zero money? That's a good one. Thank you. Bonnie says, money and power, but it's more about power. They care nothing about children. Allie says, judges have been getting away with breaking the law, and that is extremely true. Cindy says, the government wants us all fighting each other over face and political party, so we don't stand up together against the real enemy, the elites. Allie says, take the kid and run like hell. And it's sad that we have to be put in that position. Laura says, I've lived this every day for over 5 years, but I get online and I talk about my case on three blogs and Blog Talk Radio. Peggy says, I do anything to save one of my grandkids or my kids or grandkids. Okay. And then Glow V, who obviously doesn't have a name, I gotta love trolls because they never show their face. They never show their name, said, Sarah was indicted by anti-CPS SOV sit nuts. So I'm going to ask somebody out there, I don't know, with an English degree, if you can kind of maybe translate that, we can touch on that. Okay? Because if you would think that I'm a nut because I actually saved the lives of children. Matter of fact, today I spent 4 hours with a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old that was adopted. And they want to go live. They want to tell the hell that they've been put through from a CPS nuts that talk about what they're doing to kids. Okay? So Glow V, show your face, honey.
That's another good point, and that's what people need to understand. We have children that are giving their testimony, and we've released their files publicly for people to see on the border. Children who are extremely ill, who've been abused, not just by Catholic Charity Services smuggling them through the cartel into Arizona where we operate, but no, they're being abused after our teams hand them over to Border Patrol. And then afterwards, they're being mass poisoned. They're being abused and raped in these centers. The children who are refusing the vaccine are being quarantined, and they're all testing positive for COVID. We have the highest number of children ever testing positive for COVID in the history of COVID right now, happening at a Tucson migrant center in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm a journalist, and no one wants to report these facts that are actually coming from these children themselves. And it's from the mouths of babes that you can see how sick our nation is. We have children who are crying out, telling people what's happening to them, and we can't get America to shut up about the next election, about Trump still being in charge and white hats are taking care of everything. Sit back, don't do nothing, trust the plan. This is nonsense. We have children that are being abducted from their mothers. This will continue to happen until people shut up and they start doing what we've been doing. You have to start building your own communities. You have to show the capabilities of being independent. If you want to declare your independence from this globalist government, then you have to unplug from everything this globalist government has you plugged into. You have to become reliant upon God. You have to get your families to private sanctuary lands where the government's not allowed. Law enforcement, jackboot thugs are not allowed. Their warrants and their orders hold no water on these lands. They will be secured. But we have to make our own hospitals. We have to have our own schools. We have to grow our own food. We have to be able to purify and have our own water. They're poisoning your water. They're poisoning the air. They're poisoning the food. These globalists are depopulating everyone right now, and you're being attacked on so many fronts. I don't know what calling God has for you, but there are too few hands and feet right now, and we need people to start taking action. If you want to abolish CPS, then help us build the communities to send children to so CPS has no right to come in, because they won't get raped on the lands of the God of Abraham. You don't have to sacrifice children to our father. He made sure that Abraham didn't have to plunge the knife into Isaac. You don't have to sacrifice a kid to serve our father ever. You don't ever harm one. You heard what his son said. A millstone be about your neck is something better should you harm one of these little ones. We have children that are being abused, and Americans are sitting there picking a side when the only side anyone should have took was Rivers. It is the worst thing you can do to take him from the mother. If you don't like that ground, tough crap. It is still the ground. And if it was the other way and it was the father, you saw me get arrested 3 times for Ranger Cordero so he could have his kids in peace. Right is right and wrong is wrong. But everyone in their mind is thinking the opposite, because the whole world's flipped. You have to unplug. You have to start fighting back by walking away and establishing your own system. Wherever CPS is snatching up children, we need to have safe houses and people that are going to even open up warehouses they have that can be outfitted with mini hospitals. We built homeless shelters all over Arizona, and we helped thousands of people get off the streets with never taking a single dime. This is something that we could easily do once we get people past the talking and complaining phase. I don't want to sit and have to report a year from now about another mother who just had their children taken away because everyone is sitting on their butts allowing the government to do this. We have to find safe places for these mothers and fathers and children to go to. The border children that we extract from pedophiles, we have to have safe places, and we have to show the capabilities of providing for these children. And you don't provide with them by this. It's hands and feet and sacrifice and building and your time that you can give to these families, the time that you can make by making a phone call for Sarah Stanley, by contacting the jail and say, hey, you have an innocent woman in there. Send the chaplain to her. That's what I've been calling and asking them to do. I have to wait until tomorrow. So I talked to the jail administrator tomorrow. Now, Tracy Reardon's gone through this. They got her in Pennsylvania, and the marshals beat the crap out of her, literally beat her black and blue, took her daughter Sydney away for no reason. And the same thing, no drugs, no alcohol, no criminal record, not even a speeding ticket. And these women are having their children ripped from them because they want to protect their kids. That's the
It's the
only thing,
sickest
is
thing.
they want to protect their kids.
It's
And
the sickest thing. It's the
it's
sickest thing.
horrible. We have
I've
to build
witnessed
our own
it.
places.
I've lived it and I've witnessed it over the years. I never in a million years would think all these people that I interview and I get to know and I talk to them, and also being an expert in the Americans with Disability Act and domestic violence and child abuse and legal abuse syndrome, and watching these judges all over the country. So it's not just about statistics and social science research that I already know, but it's also about what I witness with my eyes every day. And when little children tell you that they're being abused and you ignore them and you place them with the abuser, or when a little child and a medical doctor does a forensic and there's sex abuse for real, and even the medical doctors tell me I cannot go on the stand another time because I know that it kills me inside, because I know that they're going to give the child to the abuser despite my expert witness testimony. When you got medical doctors saying this, when you've got attorneys that are not scum like the family court ones are, okay, who don't care about children, want them with abusers, and do everything and lie and commit perjury in these fake courts that have no trial by jury for something as fundamental as your children, okay? And then, so there's people out there that literally are clueless, and they're worse than sheeple. They're clueless because they don't have any idea how sick this is and how it's hurting the health, safety, welfare, and public trust of our nation. And what it's doing to these kids, they want to create juvenile delinquents because there's money in that, guys. They want to create kids that are on psychotropic drugs because there's money on that. They don't care. And you need to watch a movie called The Eyes of Satan. I believe that's the name. The Eyes of Satan, The Eyes of the Devil. And if you don't believe me, watch this documentary, look it up, The Eyes of the Devil, and you will see what's happening to these children. Okay, you will see. And I have a video that I did in front of the New York State Assembly in 2019 where I give all the statistics of what's happening. And I got the statistics from DSS. And they talk about it and they admit it, that the children are being trafficked through DSS. Okay. And it's high. They admit it to 86%. You might as well have 100%. Okay. They admit it to. And like I told you, do you see the children on the screen? Okay. But let me ask you guys something that say, oh, you don't want children to tell the truth about what's happening to them. Well, it's going to keep happening to them. But if there's an Amber Alert, which I'm good friends with Megan Walsh, who is exposing her vile father, John Walsh, but in the way that we would think if an Amber Alert would be real, like if a real kidnapper actually took the child. I'm not talking about a parent trying to protect them from an abuser. If an Amber Alert comes, doesn't the child's face, name, and everything about that child get shown to the public? So why isn't a child's face, name, and telling you what's happening to them when they're being abused? How do you think you're going to save these children when these abusers have them behind locked doors and tape up their mouth shut and threaten their lives to kill them or continue to sexually abuse them? And when they go to school, nobody does anything about it. But don't tell the world what's happening to these children. No, I'm just doing this because I enjoy doing this.
No, why are we still reporting? This is what I don't understand. I've looked at this extensively, and as a problem,
I'm recognized in these courtrooms, Burrito.
I used to cause problems. So I'm really great at solving problems and finding solutions. It's one of my habits. I can come up with great tactics. I'm not talented at a lot of stuff, but when it comes to solving problems and solutions, I can do that. Now, when I look at how all this transpired, you had the United States Marshals under the Barack Obama administration that's able to form a child recovery unit and get themselves involved in family court matters, thus allowing federal agencies. And that's who beat Tracy Reardon, was federal agents beat Tracy Reardon. How dare her flee with her daughter because why weren't they there protecting her? If you're going to beat anyone, why aren't you beating the people who are attacking them and making them run away? Why are you beating them further into isolation? Why do we even have to hide women and children in America? Because Americans don't care about women and children? They don't care about fathers? You know how many fathers that we've helped? I said, this is constantly happening. And as long as we keep going to them, this is going to keep happening. And there's ways that we don't have to go to them. And that takes sacrifice. That takes people building the properties. It takes you learning mediation skills. They use federal agents. And Barack Obama, I can tell you, the last thing he cared about was the safety of any child. And I'm just telling you, that's a fact. And it's the same for the Clintons, and it's the same for the Bushes. It's the same for all these elites, period. And you're reporting to the Hillary Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation. And if you're reporting to these agencies, you're reporting to the very criminals who are trafficking children on a larger scale and on a hidden satanic scale, where very bad things happen to these kids. And that's biblical. So if anyone wants to deny what's in the Bible, then you're denying God. They are still doing these things to children these days, and everyone talks. We can go after these children, these fathers, these mothers, and we can protect them from the enemy. But not if we keep going to this enemy and negotiating. We don't win. God won already. We are here to do the work. A harvest is coming. He's separating the flock. And I'll tell people, this is how heartbreaking it is for Sarah. You saw when her case came out, Francesca jumps in. She was already advocating for her. Sarah trusted her. She was advocating for I came in the picture. And then guess who's still here for her? The one who was advocating for her after I came in the picture. I reached out to Christopher Key. I said, Stu Peters, you guys ran this show. You guys just got done fighting to get a kid back in the hands of a veteran father out there in Texas out of a hospital. We can't fight to get this mother out of this jail. She's not a criminal. I used to be a criminal. You're literally imprisoning innocent people, and you're persecuting innocent people, and you don't know the damage that you reap from doing that. When you allow this government to take a good, loving mother and put her through the horrible experience, I know what her fear was. And no one's going to know the damage that's happened to her like I do, because I dealt with it many nights on the phone. Many times she was afraid. They were coming in. They're going to get me. She's afraid. This place isn't working out. What are we going to do? Many nights. This was a woman who was terrified of her child being ripped from her. And the only thing I can find solace is praise God that while she was with us, River was able to be with her for his 4th birthday, and at least she wasn't denied that. But what they've done is completely criminal. And the righteous thing to do would be the father to demand the mother be released, demand that the attorney and the judge who was manipulating him to commit these crimes against his own son be held accountable, and stand up and get River's mother out of jail. That would be the righteous thing to do, because she never violated any law. And they literally lied in court. I watched them lie under oath. I watched it, and I was there. And when I'm witnessing them lie under oath and a judge ignore it, it's right. What do you do?
They weren't there. These people that are having these stupid comments, they weren't there. I didn't see them.
They weren't there. Well, of course. That's why their comments are stupid, because they don't have knowledge. They're ignorant. They die for a lack of knowledge. That's biblical.
Sarah was there. We brought Lewis in to testify that he was there the day she tried to transfer the child over to the father. She did it like in tears, in terror, but she still did it. Okay. And
this is how, just so people know, this is how her concern was. It's irrelevant now. It's too late. But we were always going to be able to track River, and she knew that, because there was a tracker in his car seat. So when Gary got River, wherever River went, that was being tracked, and we had the ability to track her. And this was a mother who was so scared that he would take her child to Seattle and never see and jab him up and put a mask on his face. That's what she was terrified of, that he would harm her child because he's ignorant and he believes all the COVID lies like so many other sheeple. So you have a mother with genuine concerns about her child, so concerned that she took. I've never seen a mother do that before, and that's a mom who's concerned.
You know what I find hilarious with this father? If he was so concerned about the child's whereabouts, no one ever made a phone call to me, not one time. My phone as well. I'm very public. I mean, you could find me. He could find you. Can find me. Yep. If they were so worried about this child and so worried about this mother, all they had to do was pick up the phone and give us a call. Call us back. I left my phone number, for heaven's sake. Why didn't you call back? Okay,
they knew he was safe.
Call back? They knew he was safe. Yep. Of course they knew he was safe, but instead they had to do this dramatic police thing, scare the child some more, do all this insanity, throw the mother in jail. Why? Tell me what this has solved, how insane this is. How insane this is to traumatize a child. And Lewis, let me ask you a question. Talk about this little boy, this beautiful little River. Talk about River and his mother's relationship to each other. What was that like? Let's let the audience understand and hear what their relationship was like, this little boy and his mama. What were they like together when you saw them?
They belong together. That's the only thing I can tell you guys. And he's happy, and he loves her, and he's very super dependent upon her. And the only area I saw where Sarah could use help is if she had a good man in her life, because River is just a hyper boy and he wants to go outdoors. But I got private videos. I got videos that she sent me, them having squirt gun fights at some of the houses they moved to, and so, and so I got to see him at least enjoy, see the animals, play with other kids, even though they're living in terror that any moment they're going to be torn apart. I saw a mother who cared so much about her child, and her fears were reasonable. I deal with people all the time who have unreasonable fears. In those cases, I go at them and I try to break down the unreasonable fears, because that's what's stopping a solution. On this case, there was a woman who had reasonable fears that anyone with common decency would have addressed for the sake of the child, for the sake of River, and a bridge could have been built. But you can't force this down someone who's gone through. She has abandonment issues, and she's a mother who clings to her child. She loves her child. She clings to her child. She loves on her child. And me, I would say, why would you ever take a child from a mother like that? It doesn't make any sense. There's no red flag. There's no red flag. This is a woman who has every right to have her grievances with these courts, to have her grievances with the ex who abandoned her. She was never married to him under the state. The state has no jurisdiction over this child to begin with. But they seem to claim to think it does, and they just ripped this child from a mother and said, no, this child's going to go be with a man who's never had him.
Let me answer this comment, okay? Because I know this is going to piss off 99% of my viewers who are all in support of what we're saying, because they actually have something called a heart. Why would a parent be late to an exchange? Because obviously they didn't listen. They didn't listen to the whole story. So when they knew the courts and the lawyers were involved, because the child was sleeping and the child wasn't awake yet. So she texted the father and was on the way and had somebody there waiting, which we said 10 times. And we said in the last video too, and forgive me if you're actually asking a nice question, forgive me, because I do get a little pissed off sometimes, especially since I know that this horrible trauma is going on. And I'm blown away by anybody that doesn't understand what's happening in our psychopathic industry called
River schedule. Here's the thing is, this is what people don't understand. River's schedule is he's getting up around 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning. So River's schedule is 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning when he gets up. That's about his sleep time. So the exchange was at like 8:30. So I tell people, I say, she's not going to change her child's schedule for the sake of this custodial change. She doesn't have to. She gave the courtesy notice. We went there so she would have support when she did the exchange. Then Lee Jennings picked a fight and then fled, and his lawyer said, we'll call the judge. And within hours, the judge says, take the boy from the mother, give the boy to the father who left them years ago and has only spent maybe 7 days with this kid in 4 years. It's insane that you would do that to this child. You would never do that to a child. There is no mother or father fault at this. You would never do that to a child, no matter who the parent is. And that's the only thing people need to understand. No child psychologist would say that's a smart thing to do to a kid. The smart thing would be have adults be adults.
To answer your question, yes, I deeply, not only did I read everything all the way back to 2018 when this garbage started, I also know that I was in court myself for almost 14 years with a man that has a 15-page criminal record and an FBI index number. Okay. And we were in court because, you see, abusive fathers use the abusive narcissistic court system so they can continue to abuse their victim. But again, when the man abandoned in the first place and didn't give a crap, you see, there's abandonment laws in every single state that when you abandon your child, your rights are terminated. But in our country now, they ignore all those rights. These fathers that don't pay a penny for their children, not a penny, yet still get access to their kids. The Bible says that when you don't support the members of your own household, you're worse than an infidel. That's what it says. But he had $150,000 to spend on his psychopathic attorney. So yes, I did know everything about this case, everything. And we did reach out to these people. They didn't want help. They didn't want to solve the issue. They didn't want to make it gentle and easy on this child. They wanted to cause all this drama and trauma and stress and abuse. And that is wrong. Period. That is wrong. So, and yes,
Well, at the pressure, I'll just let you know what we're doing here. One, the jury pool in Teton County, I can tell you that there are families, whether people understand it or not, you come out here and you talk to these families who know Sarah and River, and you talk to them and you ask them what they think about has transpired. There were families that were helping this woman long before we even came into the picture, and they love her and they're still there for her. They were distraught when they called me. Many of them thought that my organization had been infiltrated, and and I said, no, if it was, we'll let people know. I mean, I'll throw people under the bus if you were to ever do this to anyone that we're protecting. You give us time, you give God time, be patient. Sometimes time is needed. Since we fabricate time ourselves, we require it to solve problems. So sometimes you got to allow the right situation to take place. But what they've done is completely criminal. We need Prosecutor Bailey Smith in Teton County to know that those letters that I've been handing out, that's printed, I'm going to get more of them, and they're going to keep going out, and we're going to let everyone know that she is literally holding a woman who was just victimized and had her child abducted by law enforcement, holding her in prison. We don't want her extradited. We want her released, and we want River returned to her.
And
but
I'm really glad that you were there.
Right now.
I'm really glad that you were there because this mother was so terrified. And I'm sorry, but you know what? You definitely have mental issues. You really do. And I mean criminal, mentally insane issues. To even say that Lewis shouldn't have been there. Again, you've never been abused, have you? Verigo Kennedy, if that's really your name. Okay, Verigo Kennedy. He was there because he was there because she was abused. Hello. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna block the whack job. I don't.
That's a troll. Yeah, we know who she is. We don't even say her name.
Hey. Good.
We don't even say her name. And what we want people to focus on.
I like people to know. Meanwhile,
we want people to focus on what we can do. Man, we can do something.
Let me tell you how dangerous this man is, though. I spoke to family members. I spoke to several people that knew him. I spoke to other abused ex-girlfriends of his. They're too scared to speak out, way too terrified of him to speak out. Okay, and I deal with this all the time. They're too scared to speak out. And many reasons is because they're re-victimized and called liars. And it's way too traumatizing. And it's really sad because I understand it. I know exactly how it feels. And they're too scared to speak out. And if they all came together and spoke out, they'd have power in those numbers. But they were too scared to speak out. So there you have it.
Regardless, no one can give one good reason to take a child away from a mom like Sarah Stanley, who's broken no law, who's done no drugs, who's done no alcohols. Regardless, no one can come up with any reason to say that that's the best interest of the child. That is the worst thing you can do to the child. So I don't care about anything else. That was the reason why God had it in our heart to intervene. As soon as I met that little boy, and then when we saw what the courts did and I heard the word sanctuary, I do what I always did, and we placed him under his shadow. I can't control where these people go once they get in our program. They are allowed to go and move. We do our best to find. And the sad part is we had such a hard time finding people to open up their homes for Sarah and River Stanley. It was astounding how hard it was for people to open up their home to a then 3-year-old boy about to turn 4 years old, who through no fault of his own was going through all this terror. Don't you understand that the mom living in fear, the kid picks up on that, then the kid senses something wrong with the mom, then you got them having to hide in fear. That is terror. That is pure terrorism at its core, is what these family courts are doing and what these law enforcement thugs are doing. They're no longer protecting and serving you. They are separating you, incarcerating you, beating you, imprisoning you. They are violating your rights while you wave a blue line flag. We're not supporting any agency like U.S. Marshals, like your law enforcement and sheriff's department, when they're actively abducting children from mothers and fathers because some court gives them the authority to do so. You do not have authority to supersede God. Sarah gave birth to River. That is her child. You do not separate a child from his or her mother, ever. Never. You never do that. And because America is allowing this to take place, understand your children that you're clinging to and you think it can't happen to you. Understand, so many of you, you'll remember Sarah's name because you'll be going through the same thing that she was going through. And I pray to God that if you are going through that, you would reach out to some of us, because we're not just telling you what's going on. We run active operations. We do our best to protect everyone, to mediate. We are not afraid of this government. We serve God. We have no fear whatsoever of this government. They're criminal federal agencies. We don't acknowledge CPS because children we gave to CPS were sent back to their pedophile. Period. I'm not using someone who's going to abuse children. We're doing our best to get people down on the border so we don't have to hand these border kids over. We don't want to hand them over to a system that's injecting them with 10 shots in one day and beating them and raping them. This is what's going on. You're allowing these governments and these law enforcement thugs to do this to children. It's going to happen to your children. And your grandchildren are not going to have nothing like we had. And that's very sad that no one's willing to sacrifice for the kids right now. Everyone wants to talk. We need people to come out and help us work. We got a lot of work to do. I got moms that need help still.
The comments speak for themselves. Look at this one. My daughter was screaming when the father came to pick up, Mama, please don't make me go, please. And then child psychologist told me don't send, but the court forced her to send. Look at how many we have that they burned the house down, they burned the car down, they killed the child in it, they throw the child over the river into the water, kill the child. This is going on and on and on and on and on. And yes, you are 100% right. Fear of man brings a snare. I do not fear these demon things. I do not fear them at all. We go up in their face and we're going to take back the children. We're going to see the greatest exodus of children coming very soon. So please don't fear. There's no reason to fear. And yes, I do speak in courts. I sit next to my clients in courts. I talk in courts. I am not an attorney, but I know the law is better than the attorneys. And I apply and I invoke the Americans with Disability Act rights for my families. And most judges, this one was a complete psychotic, but most judges respect me, even though they're not respectable themselves. Okay. Because I fought long and hard to save kids, just so that you know. And I don't agree with these courts. I believe they're all evil and wrong on every level. But unfortunately, in some cases, we have to go inside to get our kids out of there. Okay. That's like what you do. You go into the enemy's camp and you take back what the devil stole. That's what we're doing. So that's what we're doing. And yes, I love these people, what they're saying. There's so many people that are in support, and the others were a handful of trolls that they come on, of course. But it's really sad. Is Lewis, yes, so she's in a jail in Alabama right now. I do have somebody out there. I have a couple people. We're working on a few things, behind the scenes, trying to get to the bottom of this. But you want them to call. Did you happen to get a phone number? Because unfortunately I didn't. I was actually
I have it posted on our Border Wars. If you can still hear me, hold on, I'll pull it up right now.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I just want to get that number on the screen for people to start calling. And, of course, the trolls are going to call and they're going to say, keep her there. But for the rest of you who care about this innocent mother who should not be there, who should be reunited as quickly as possible with her child and live with her child and not have to live in fear of this man and this insane court system, evil, demonic, evil, nasty court system and crazy attorneys and wacky people. We're going to keep praying for her that God will set her free, not these demons. So.
Yeah, it's it's Moulton, and it's in Alabama, but the sheriff's phone number is 256-974-2500. So it's 256-974-2500. And we ask them too, if you're calling, just give them my number, 520-500-4506. We're trying to get someone to get her my phone number so that she can contact me. She's trying to reach one of the Idaho families that called me earlier, and he's trying to figure out how to add money so he can accept calls. I already know that. We already know. We've had to deal with. Hold on,
just because you went a little fast. The first number that I have, do I have it right? 256-974-2500. That's for the Moulton County Police.
Yes,
Right. I mean,
that's for
sorry.
I believe it's Jefferson County in Alabama, either Jefferson or
Okay, so
Lawrence.
they can call, and everybody can just keep calling and calling and saying what's actually happening here. Okay. And then for Lewis's number, go ahead, Lewis. I'll put it up right now.
It's five
Give me
two
it.
zero
Mm-hmm.
500
Mm-hmm.
4506.
Okay, I got that too. So I'll put that up. But let's keep this one on the screen for a minute for the family, for everybody to see, and then I'll put up Lewis's. So the first number is to call and to just state, is just state, that this mother doesn't belong in there. My goodness, even if he wasn't an abusive father, I never met a father that's not an abusive father that takes children from their mothers. I never met one. I can tell you all these years. I've met really nice fathers. I've met fathers that I fight for, so they have access to their children or whatever, what have you. I work on mediating between mom and dad so they can just work it out when they're both normal and decent people. They don't go to family court. But when you've got one abuser, one narcissist going on, fighting against an innocent mother like this, that's an abuser. That's an abuser. Whether you want to believe it or not, maybe you've been abused, and so you don't know how to distinguish between an abuser and a non-abuser. But that is an abuser. Assuredly, that is an abuser. So call and talk about this innocent woman that does not, it just kills me. I live in New York State. Murderers had more due process than I've seen Shara Stanley have. Murderers, okay, real murderers in New York State don't go to jail, okay, now because we have all these crazy new laws. But mom is sitting in jail right now. Figure this out, somebody, please help
Yeah,
me, dear God.
and
Help me.
anyone who's never been to jail, understand she's never been to jail.
Right.
She doesn't belong in this environment. She's literally in a concrete box with no one, with nothing, and she just had her child. So put yourself in her shoes when you make that call. And you make it very apparent to those who are her captors, who are holding her in prison against her will, that they should not harm her. If anything, they should take care of her. They should go pray for her, go check on her, let her know that what's happened to her is atrocious. All they have to do is go and see. Any reasonable person would look and say, you would never do this. Why would you do this? And she's not the only one. This is the one I've witnessed. I've got the other ones that happen after the fact. This is the one, and it doesn't matter that it wasn't in our program, that she left someone else. The only reason why I'm investigating that, because I want to know how this happened, and she will tell us. So she's going to be able
Um.
to tell us exactly who was responsible and how she ended
Okay.
up found, because she wasn't found when she was with us. And we were
Right.
having a hard
I'm
time
reading.
finding places for her because Americans don't want to open up their homes to children until it's, as soon as you say, okay, we got some kids, and then they get the kids, and all of a sudden people don't want to have the kids in their house. And it's like, well, you understand that this is what you're inviting in when you say you want to help. You actually sacrifice. You actually have to open up your home and your personal living space. And, I mean, there's inconveniences, but I don't never see how a child can be an inconvenience. Maybe it's a little more work having a child, but I honestly believe that you end up blessing your home, because when the apostles, when his disciples were trying to deny him the children to get up to him, he told them, don't deny me the kids. And it's from the mouths of babes that so much gets revealed, and children are crying out today. They're crying out while they're being ripped from their parents, and the children who are saying, no, don't take me, are being taken. Where, in most cases, when CPS goes to a home and a child's being abused, they're not screaming if they're really in a bad house and they want to get the heck out of there. They're get me out of here. They're wanting to go in a lot of cases. You have children who know they're being ripped from a safe place, being placed in a dangerous place, and they're screaming out, and law enforcement is just obeying whatever that piece of paper says. They're not obeying what God's word said. They're not obeying his word. They're not serving God. They're serving a globalist controlled government is what they're serving. And they're kidnapping your children, and they're trafficking border children, and they're raping and murdering these children. And children are going to continue to be targeted until we start building safe places and extracting these children from these government institutions.
Yep. So again, this is Lewis Arthur's number right here, guys. Take that down. And then this is to call the jail and tell them, how you feel about this. And I do want to just leave it with this scripture, and thank you for the person that put this here. Mark 9:42, and whoever shall offend one of these little ones, and this child River is being offended as we speak, and this mother too, and she's a child of God, that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hung about his neck and he was cast into the sea. Mark 9:42. So, I think about this even, and obviously, like I just read it when it went really, really quickly, where a father was saying how the woman allowed the child to be molested. And, this happens too. I mean, there is women teachers that have slept with their students. We're not, this is not, I'm seeing a bulk of mothers that are innocent, good moms that are losing their children to abusive fathers that want sole custody. Okay, it's a narcissistic abuser that does this. Decent fathers don't do this, is what I'm saying. Unfortunately, there's been fathers that have had no choice, and I meet these men that there is an issue, maybe a heroin needle's hanging out of her arm, and she's not capable of being a mom. She's still the mother, but she's not capable of parenting properly and protecting her children. And these dads come to me in tears. They are in tears. And it's not natural for them. Like, they'll do it, they'll take on the job, but they're in tears to do it. And I'm not saying they do a good job. I mean, one parent households do good jobs when they have to. They do great jobs. Children are raised in a safe environment, and it's steady like that. So that's another statistic that's a lie, that a one parent household, all kids end up in jail, all kids end up. That's a lie. That's foster care kids. That's a lie that this court system has propagated. That's a lie. So, yes, there's bad mothers out there too. We're not saying that, Leonard, at all. We're not saying that at all. But I have met way more abusive fathers, and they're taking children away from mothers 100%. And if there's one thing what is worse than a fatherless home? A motherless home. There is nothing worse than a motherless home. Even Jesus, when Abraham was with the concubine, he sent Ishmael with his mother. He didn't send Ishmael with his father. He sent her away with the child. Okay, there is something sacred that Jesus came through a woman. Don't forget that. Okay, and that's biblical. Women are to be protected. We are the weaker vessel. If you're a father and you have no choice and you have to raise the children, your wife died, or she is hooking in the streets and she's rather have drugs, of course. But good mothers, I'm talking about good innocent mothers like Sarah Stanley. Never did a drug, doesn't do bad things, doesn't get arrested.
Not one accusation of child abuse. Not one speeding ticket, not one criminal record, no drugs, no alcohol. I have had the case managed for far worse than you can imagine, where I look at it and it's like, we got to get you ready to where you can take care of your kids, because the only way I can advocate for you is if you're able to advocate for yourself. Sarah Stanley she didn't belong in our program, because she didn't have any issues for any reason for anyone to take her child away from her, period. She's an innocent mother who's sitting in jail right now, and they're going to keep doing it. So remember, on the day that everyone was celebrating the child that Stu Peters helped get out from a hospital, while everyone was celebrating that, River Stanley was abducted from his mother, and she's sitting in prison right now for trying to protect her child. She had a reasonable, lawful fear to flee for her safety. And we are witnesses to the crimes committed against her by Judge Cleve Colson, by attorney Lori Gaffney, by the abuser Larry Gee Jennings, and even Clint Lemieux and prosecutor Bailey Smith of Teton County. We witnessed these crimes happening against this innocent mother. This is sick, and if they can do it to her, they're going to do it to you. And people who choose not to do something about it, understand, when you're exposed to this evil and you're given an opportunity to take action and fight back for the innocent, and you choose not to do it because you're going to jump on the next distraction, understand, you are carrying that burden whether you realize it or not, and you'll answer for that. You'll be like the first two people that walked past the guy that got robbed on the road. You have to be the good Samaritan. You're going to have to take action. A phone call helps. An email helps. Sharing the video out helps. Getting the information out, that does help. But most importantly, pray, because this is a spiritual warfare. The enemy is devouring children, and you don't understand what these kids are going through in the torment. And so many of you, I don't understand how you can't feel it. But so there has to be more people out here that can feel it. But you're going to have to start doing something, because it's getting worse, and it's getting worse, and it's escalating to a point where I'm seeing good people that are fed up. and they're fed up to where they see the only solution is being violent. And I can tell people, I was like, that's not a solution either. We have a way to take action right now to put a stop to this. We're not going to be able to stop it across the entire country, but we can stop it in areas where it needs to be stopped immediately. You know, and all it takes is building these properties up.
I have clusters and clusters of mothers. I have the fathers that call me, and I know right away if they're an abuser or not. Now, something I learned, I didn't know it right away. I know it now. But a couple of the things in their language are, I don't want to take the children away from her. I love her. Whatever. I love my children. I would never take them away from their mother. That's a clear sign that they're not an abuser. But I just want to see them. Okay, I'll do anything I can to help you. I'll do anything I can. And I do. Now, I've got clusters and clusters of mothers. There's no disputing this, okay? That literally have no access, zero, to their children, zero. They're professionals. They don't drink. They don't do drugs. They took them to church. They raised them. They love them. They miss them. They're crying. They can't function. They're upset. They're hurt. They're dying inside. Okay. These are not messed up women. These are not drug dealers. These are not drug addicts. They're not letting their kids get molested. Okay. These are just good mothers. The mothers that are in jail because they committed murder, they see their kids more than these mothers. We've got a problem. And good men will fight for these mothers. Okay, period. Good men will fight for these mothers. It's just that simple. And that doesn't mean that I don't fight for dads, because I do. But I started saying earlier, and we're going to have to wrap soon. I started saying earlier in the beginning, I took on, equal amounts a couple of years ago. And do you know that after a while, and this is how I got to be really good at this, I learned that 80-something% of these fathers that came to me turned out to have very serious abuse issues. And they were very, very good at hiding it. Okay. And all they wanted was to use me to get the children completely away from their mothers. Okay. And I do try to balance out and find out what's going on with the whole entire family. And I get very intricately involved with these families. So this is why I am pushing for moms and children, because we are the weaker vessel, and you cannot keep doing this separate, because that's what this government wants. They want to take out the dad, then take out the mom so we could take the kids. And then they're going to molest the kids, traffic the kids, and the whole 9 yards, and it keeps going. Okay. If you love your children and you broke up a relationship, work it out. If he's an abuser, don't go to family court, because they're not going to help you. I hate the saying, if you see something, say something, because there's nobody to say it to, because these animal things that, no, animals are good. These evil demon things, as soon as they find out your child is being abused, they will put your children with the abuser. It's happening every second of every single day. Children are placed with abusers, period. And someone popped up the word, went fast, but parental alienation. Okay, let me talk about that real quick. When a parent is protecting their children, they call it parental alienation. When they go into court with real evidence of abuse, guess what they do? They alienate that parent, claiming that they had parental alienation. It wasn't parental alienation at all. It was protection. Okay. So in some cases, they're doing that where they, there's something mentally wrong. Less than 2% of families, less than 2% of people, this is social science, psychology research, are delusional. Less than 2%. Okay. So think about that for a little bit. Okay. They're not protecting their kids because they're delusional. They're protecting their kids because they're afraid, because they left the relationship because of abuse. Otherwise, they'd still be in the relationship. Period. Sorry.
If you have people, I'll just say this: if you have the government and they're getting ready to take your kids away, you need to get away. You can contact us, 520-500-4506, my phone number. You can send me a text message. But at this point, no one should be negotiating with these courts. We just witnessed them from start to end persecute a woman who's committed no crime and abuse a child who was safe with a loving mother. These courts have no authority. These law enforcements have no authority. Their orders have no authority unless you continue going to them, submitting to them, answering the summons. If you find yourself in custodial disputes, then I ask you to give us an opportunity to mediate something before going to courts. Don't take your child through these court process, because they don't care whether you're a mom or a father. In majority of these cases, they just want to take the children. And I want people to know, we've been investigating this thoroughly, and it's not just River Stanley. there is a high percentage, 80% of children being abducted from their parents are unvaccinated. And when you have them running a global guinea pig system on the population, you have to have a control group somewhere. We are doing our best to track all these children, build these numbers up so we can figure out what exactly they're doing. There's always something nefarious. They don't care about what's in the best interest of the child. We just saw it with our own eyes. These courts in Idaho have no jurisdiction as long as people just ignore them. That's all you got to do is walk away.
Hold on, Lewis. Oh my gosh, Lewis, you help veterans and you're not a veteran? I help veterans.
It's a veteran suicide prevention program. I'm a civilian. It's a veteran suicide prevention program. Yeah.
To this one.
Yeah, it's a veteran suicide prevention program, and these aren't real veterans that are saying this. We have real veterans volunteering for us, you know, so we don't worry about those guys. They're trolls. But yeah, the name Veterans on Patrol is it's a program.
I have to be homeless to go help the homeless. I have to be a drug addict to go help the drug addict. I have to be God to preach a sermon. I mean, come on, people! Like, really? Like, come on! You have something better to do with your life, don't you?
They don't have nothing to do but troll online. This is what they do. They have nothing to do. You know, they should make a phone call for Sarah. They should make a phone call for River. Is what they should be doing.
They should be working on saving his mother, but they're not real men or whatever, because they would be if that was the case.
They should be helping me build these sanctuary properties. We're building properties for women, men, and children, for Christians who don't want to get jabbed. If you don't want to take the mark and use their one world currency, if you don't want to vote in their one world government, you need a safe place to go. Otherwise, you have to submit to them. We're building these places, so we'd appreciate it if every online troll would shut their mouth, come out and pick up a hammer or a sledgehammer and help us build our own future, because you're headed straight towards destruction as long as you keep playing this little online troll game. We are doing our best to rescue women, children, and men in need. We help people all the time. You are interfering with God's servants when you obstruct us, lie about us, smear us, attack us. You're not rescuing children. You're not witnessing the horrible things that we have to witness. You haven't even done the crazy things that we've done to save a child. You have not even done any of those things, but you made a whole lot of comments online. You're trolls. You have no value. You're irrelevant. Why don't you pick up a hammer and start building something? Why don't you go create something? Because you're not doing anything but distracting from the help that River Stanley needs right now. A 4-year-old boy is now in the arms of a stranger, headed to a place where we pray for God's hands just to remain on this child. God intervened for River, and my Father doesn't forsake children, so I have to have faith that he has some plan here, because he doesn't forsake us. He doesn't forsake the child. And even if people step outside of their shadow and they look for another place, he's so merciful. He's not going to make the child look. God has his hands on this. We need our prayer warriors to keep praying. We don't want Sarah giving up. The worst thing that we can have, but people don't understand, is she just experienced her worst nightmare. So she's just gone through that. And at that point, people give up. There's nothing else for her to fight for. River was her world, and they just took her whole world away from her. And imagine having your purpose and your entire world ripped away, and you never did anything to deserve that. They just did it because they could. Because someone had more money than she did. She had none, and he had a lot, and that's how it happened. And a judge paid off by a Democrat socialist attorney, paid off by an abuser who doesn't want to pay child support, would rather get the kid back so he can abuse him again. That's all you have transpiring right now.
He didn't have money for supporting the child, but he had $150,000 to steal the child from the mother. And let's face it, like, that's exactly what a bully does. Silence you, don't give you she didn't have due process. Matter of fact, take a look at this, and I do have to wrap it. But take a look at this. It says, federal law at Title 18, Section 503 prohibits the taking of any child away from its natural parents without a hearing in a court of competent, these are not competent, jurisdiction, and anyone who violates this provision has lost immunity. And the reason I'm putting that up is because I was there. I witnessed the court. I read all the paperwork. I was there as her ADA advocate. We invoked her ADA rights. They didn't. They violated them all the way through. They threw her into a trial without letting her prepare. They did it on the spot. On the spot. She showed up for the visitation. She was already traumatized. This is what they do to abuse victims all the time. They re-victimize. They throw the children in with the abuser. That's why there's 1,000,001 different laws with children's names on them, because judges place children with abusers. And then the abuser burns them, kills them, molests them, does all these horrible things to them. And the mother, in most cases, gets told that she's coaching. Period. That's it. I see this day in and day out. So this is it. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We are out of time. Lewis, do you have anything else you want to say? I'm going to put that number back on real quick here. I got both numbers. I've got 256-974-2500 for you guys to call to say free Sarah Stanley. Remember, Mother's Day is coming up, so everybody keep her in prayer. And then Lewis' number is 520-500-4506. And yes, Lewis and I, we're still here, and we're going to stay here till we get this taken care of. So Lewis, did you want to say anything else before we wrap?
Just so you guys know, it's not just her case. We still have other cases and other moms. And I'm asking you to research Amy Harshbarger, Tracy Reardon, Sarah Ybarra Johnson, and Carla have a good team from what I'm seeing that started advocating for them. So we're grateful. But there are people who need help. Sometimes they just need you to listen to them so they can kind of just, just regurgitate themselves. Because they're in that cycle, and you have to be patient. But there are things that you can do to help some of these families. And we have children right now, guys. I mean, we have 650,000 children that's been smuggled into our country with no family member in the past 2 years. Those are your border numbers. 650,000 children. Department of Homeland Security has already admitted that they've lost 20,000 children in the processing. Now they are mass injecting children. So when you see hospitals get filled up and they come out with some new variant and you see children dying, remember, we were reporting from the border, begging people to come down and shut down these centers where they're mass inoculating these children, where children are calling us and crying, saying they won't let them out of quarantine unless they take 10 vaccines, and they don't want to get jabbed. They were already jabbed in their country in some cases. So we're asking people, there are children that need help. We have operations on the border. I am making a run from the West Coast to the East Coast right now, and then back to the West Coast. And we are going to be visiting a lot of these children that you've seen me pull out of these deserts. Some of these kids, I promised them I was going to come check on them, and I'm going to be knocking on their door, and I'm going to be going to check on them and spend time with them. I don't care where they came from. Every one of these children are placed in sanctuary. If we're going to those residents, then those residents are protected. We're doing our best to advocate for what's best in the child. A lot of these children, we can fight and we can get them to get back home and reunite them with their family. Most of these kids don't have family, and we need Christian homes to step up, or at least sponsor a Christian household who is stepping up, who maybe has room, but they can't take on the incurring costs for feeding the child. So we would ask people, there are things that you can do, whether it's opening your properties, whether it's sending the material support that we need, whether it's we have teams that are going across America. Contact me. We don't want to spend money on hotel. I try to raise very little money for my work as a journalist. I get by between $3,000 to $5,000 a year. That literally. But we have people who open up their homes. We don't do hotels. We don't do any of that stuff. We'll camp out in the desert. We'll camp out in the national parks before we go spend hundreds of dollars on a hotel to do. No, we just want to get the job done. We'll get in there, make it cost effective. We need people that'll supply us. If you can open your home to a child, we need to verify that it's a safe home. You have to be a Christian home for us to hand you any of these children. It has to be a Christian household. There's no negotiating on that. I understand Catholics get offended, but your Catholic charity services, your Catholic church, your Catholic community services are not only trafficking these children into the United States of America through a vicious cartel, but they're also mass inoculating them at centers, and they were abusing Cubans, and we got that on record too. So we can't be placing a child into a home unless it's a believer. You have to believe in our Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the creator of Adam and Eve. You have to believe in him and his son, and that we want a child that we meet. We give them a Bible. We introduce most of these kids to Jesus. We want them to find a home where they can read that Bible and they can pray to Jesus, and they can have a good, loving Christian home to grow up in, because some of them have no home to go to. And we're not just going to send some kid back to the cartel and let the cartel do what they want with these children, which means we have to open up our homes. If you can do that, get a hold of me. If you can travel and you got a good vehicle and you can make runs with us and you can live on the road and you can just live out of the backpack. We got a lot of kids to visit. We got a lot of stash houses to go and shut down. I have hundreds of their phones. I know everyone who's hiring these guys. I know the places where they are, because they literally leave their coordinates on and they put the addresses on of their destinations. We're going to go and get the children out of the hands of the pedophiles and the gangbangers, get them to the safe properties. This way ICE can go in and deport the criminals that can't be deported right now because they're using children. 650,000 shields in America right now, preventing the deportation of all the criminals they released from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras when they opened up their prisons. We need people that'll help us. We got nothing but operations. We need you to grab your bag and get to the border, or get out here with me. I'm in the Northwest right now.
Amen. Thank you so much, Lewis. Thank you so much for coming on. I just want to close, and I want to say something very important. You know, you guys, if you didn't see this entire live, go back to the beginning and watch it. It's chock full of information. I do want to say a couple of things. For anybody that were asking questions about my YouTube channel, just go right here in the description on any channel that you're watching from right now, and my YouTube channel is there. So you'll be able to see, yes, there is a 2019 New York State Assembly that I highly recommend that you watch on my YouTube channel. There's also a 2020 full congressional briefing that I did with a team that I brought together. You definitely want to watch that too. This way you can understand the statistics for yourself with several experts that have proven everything that we're saying here. So, and last but not least, I want to say something to anyone that has watched this tonight. Majority of you obviously are all in agreement that this is absolutely sick and evil. But for anyone that thinks that it's okay to strip a child from a mother because she so-called took the child from the father, okay? And this goes both ways. And they did it with all this evidence of the fact that they were genuinely afraid of the child being further abused or being abused at all, okay? Then I want to ask you this question, and I want to leave you with this thought before we wrap. You think it's okay that if you feel that it hurt that parent that you took the child away from them, then ask yourself this before you go to sleep tonight and before you pray to God, if you do that. Why was it okay to take that mother away from that child? If you're concerned about the pain, if that's the reason why you feel this way, and you don't want to look at the abuse, you just think it's okay, then I just want to ask you this, and I want to leave you with that. Why is it okay to take that mother away from that child and place her in jail? Why is that okay to you? I don't know how you could possibly think that that's okay. To me, that is one of the worst forms of abuse that you can do. So let's leave you with that. And again, thank you, Lewis. And don't forget, you can call the jail. There's a number. And you can call Lewis. There's a number. And again, thank you so much, Lewis, for being on this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
God bless everyone. You all have a good night. Thank you.